Well, now that America's gone, welcome to Podcast Land. When you're in Podcast Land, there's a few rules I'd like to follow. Number 1, watch movies every week, Glenn. Number 2, boring entitled white men must have their own podcast. That's non-negotiable. And number 3, when talking about movies, you must give a spoiler warning. The following podcast contains spoilers for Zombieland. You have been warned!
Welcome to KFR News Radio. Oh God, this is your host. Oh God, Judgement button. Hello, your host. Mike and Glen. I think I lost him.
Oh man, were you just running in circles from zombies?
I literally took 2 steps back and 2 steps forward, pretty much.
Why would you do that to yourself?
For continuity.
There you go. How you doing, Glenn?
I am all right. I think that's actually the most I've moved all day, and I might actually be passing out now.
Well, you just hyperventilated yourself on purpose with all that deep breathing.
Not all my blood's in my head, but hey. Right. Well, how are you?
I am just dandy. Got back into the swing of things coming back from Iceland. This will probably be the last time I mention that. I apologize to everyone that I've annoyed with talking about Iceland so much. But I'm a man of culture who has traveled to Iceland, so I must talk about it. But Glenn, enough about Iceland. What movies have you watched this week?
I've watched a whopping 2, 2 of which we had to do for the podcast, just /show, period.
Yeah.
So let's get on to that silly little what's the word? Willy. Yes. First, we had watched Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3.
Yes.
Were my emotions ready for it? Nope. Is it one of my favorite movies of the year? Possibly.
Yeah. You'll have to check out YouTube.
You'll have to check out the YouTuberoonies.
Yes.
And then, of course, I got into Zombieland a little bit ago, which we might talk about. I haven't fully decided.
Yeah, we might. We might talk about it.
Very quick onto that. Let's get to you silly man.
Yes.
What did you get into?
Like I said, I got back into the swing of things. I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 movies after.
Oh yeah, you swung. You swung all right.
Seeing, I think I only saw 10 in 21 days, which is still a lot. That's more than most people. But yeah, for the last episode. The first one I watched was for the 1001 movies. It was a rewatch for Full Metal Jacket, Stanley Kubrick's Vietnam film. Love it. It was just as good that time around. Highly recommend people check it out if they haven't seen it. Full Metal Jacket. Of course, it's got that famous first act that is in the boot camp. Arlie Ermey's first role, I believe, as the drill instructor. I know he stole that from someone. Yeah,
that's my dad's favorite movie.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. He probably. Well, I don't know your dad, but he seems, from what I've heard, seems like the kind of person who the message of that movie would be lost on.
A little
bit. Sorry, Glenn Warren II.
Oh, you little junior man.
Hey, I gave him the dignity of calling him the second, not junior. Not junior.
Come on, Junior.
So that's Full Metal Jacket. Then I knew we were going to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I wanted to watch 1 and 2 to catch up. So I watched 1 and 2. Guardians of the Galaxy is probably the most consistent for me personally of the Marvel movies. So it was a joy rewatching them. Yeah. Then in between 1 and 2, I watched John Mulaney's new stand-up special, John Mulaney Baby J.
I've been told many times to watch it by now.
It's the entire thing is about how he went to rehab back in 2020 or the end of 2020, early 2021, and how his life is much different now. Definitely a different vibe from his old stuff. Granted, this was this was just one long story, so it wasn't like his normal style. I didn't enjoy it as much as of his other stuff. It still has a lot of really funny parts. Still probably one of the better specials out there. But it was just different enough where I need to get used to it before
Yeah.
I can decide if I like it better or worse than his old vibes. As he even calls it out, he's like, I have a different vibe now.
Yeah, I've liked him, but I've never like gone out of my way to be like, I need to watch some John Mulaney.
yeah.
So now that I'm getting pressured to watch the new stuff, I'm like, yeah.
Watch his old stuff first if you haven't. His old stuff.
I've seen most of it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he was my second favorite comedian behind Mike Birbiglia. I love Mike Birbiglia. He's so fucking funny.
He's
but
fun.
yeah, so yeah, there's that. Then we watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Have a YouTube video for that. You can head over there to find out what I thought, and what Glenn thought too. Then for the 1001 movies you must see before you die, I watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That was a rewatch, of course. Tim Curry is in it as a.
I was actually just thinking about rewatching that.
Oh yeah, I liked it a lot more than I did when I watched it. I think I watched it 20 years ago. No, not 20. I would have been. I might have watched it when I was 13. I maybe it was more 15
What a
years
movie
ago.
to watch.
Well, I was in. I was like a kid extra in a high school play when I was 8, and they would play the Time Warp to get warmed up, and so I was exposed to Rocky Horror Picture Show very early on. Not that it's not like, I mean, yes, it's like a lot of it's about sex and stuff, but it's not like it's not super graphic or anything. But yeah, I thought it was hilarious, more so this time around than I remember thinking it was back then. Tim Curry's great. Then for the 1001 movies, I watched a French film from 1933 called Zero for Conduct, which is essentially about a boarding school filled with boys who revolt against their teachers and everything. And I did not like it at all. I thought it was... yeah, I mean, I acknowledge...
No words need explained.
Yes, I acknowledge that it's an important film, especially for French film. And it's got some great visuals in it, but it is also just very annoying because the reason they revolt is really not that big of a deal, even by today's standards. And this was 1933. It felt more like homework than anything, and it was only 40 minutes too. So
I hate
short.
homework.
Yeah. Then on Saturday, I had a double feature. I had a good old double feature at the movie theater. Watched Fool's Paradise, written and directed, and starring Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny fame.
Honest, I was a little disappointed when I saw that.
Oh, you saw that? Oh, I didn't. I thought you wouldn't want to come with me.
We could have watched that instead of Family.
I mean, we could still go watch that instead of Family.
We'll see.
I don't think you understand how much I want to avoid Fast and Furious. Then I watched Sisu, which, while watching it, I realized was directed by the same Finnish director as Rare Exports, a movie we talked about on this podcast. And the little kid who is in Rare Exports is also in this, like 10 years older. And so is the main guy in Sisu. Is also in Rare Exports, and he is the father of the kid in Rare Exports, and I didn't know that. And also, the director is the kid's uncle, so it's a whole family affair. Nepotism is not just an American thing. So there's that. Again, I have no problem with nepotism in movie making. I think it's the dumbest argument to be like, oh, they just hired them because they're friends and family. It's like, yeah, if you're making a fucking movie, you want to have people you like around you. You idiots. Sorry that. I went really hard.
No,
there.
you called them out. You got to stick your ground now.
No, I mean, I'm not sorry for saying it. I'm sorry for wasting your time, Glenn.
My time is never wasted with you.
But yeah, nepotism in Hollywood is not even worth talking about, so I don't know why people talk about it. Then I watched a movie, because Netflix DVD is going away. I forgot to mention this last time.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, September
You're
29th.
a sad boy here soon.
Yeah. I found out like 5 days before I found out Oaks was definitely closing while I was in Iceland.
Oh my God, you're just getting a plethora of
yeah,
fuckery.
And
huh?
it was just like, oh, September 29th is the last time we're sending out movies. And I was like, great.
Oh God, that
So,
sucks.
yeah, I'm just trying to get through as many as I can before then. So I watched Marty, which is the Best Picture winner from 1955. It's you know SpongeBob, right?
Yeah.
You know
I think
Mermaid
so.
Man and Barnacle Boy, right?
Yeah, of course.
So the main actor in this is the voice of Mermaid Man.
Evil!
Exactly. And this movie is about this guy who is not conventionally handsome. He keeps calling himself fat and ugly, which I would disagree with. I would admit he's not conventionally handsome, but he's not fat and ugly. And it's just about how people keep riding on him for not being married yet, and it's just like tearing his self-esteem down and everything. And it's very touching. It's a very sad movie. And
sad.
then he meets a woman who is also considered not attractive, even though she is in her own right. And it's just a very touching story about them kind of falling in love. One of the rare romances that I was like, oh, this is nice. I like this. But yeah, so that's Marty, 1955. Got Mermaid Man. No Barnacle Boy, though.
That's... Why?
Yeah, no.
Why?
He might not have been alive yet. I don't know who played Barnacle Boy, but yeah. But yeah, that's Marty. And then I watched Zombieland, which we're going to get into right now.
Planet Earth, home to over 6 billion people. Today, our very existence is threatened by epidemics, climate change, and dwindling resources. But those are the least of our problems. Welcome to Zombieland.
My mother always told me, someday you'll be good at something. I mean, I don't think she could have guessed that something would be zombie killing.
What do you think? Zombie kill of the week?
Close, but no cigar. Zombie Kill of the Week went to Miss Cynthia Knickerbocker.
Gotta enjoy the little things.
A shy student trying to reach his family in Ohio, a gun-toting bruiser in search of a last Twinkie, and a pair of sisters striving to get to an amusement park join forces in a trek across a zombie-filled America.
Yes, it's directed by Ruben Fleischer, written by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, starring Jesse Eisenberg, Emma Stone, Woody Harrelson, Abigail Breslin, Bill Murray's in there for a hot second, Amber Heard's in there for a hot second. And pretty much everyone else is just like they come and go. They're extras, really. And so this came up in streaming roulette. Neither of us really wanted to watch it, but it was the only one that I really had any interest in watching or
Really
rewatching.
struck a fancy, if you will.
Yeah, I was not excited to watch this, to say the least. Not that I dislike it. It's just I remembered it being a very meh kind of movie. To the point where I think the second one is better, personally speaking.
I'm going to go on record and say I never even watched the second one.
I don't blame you. The only reason I did is because I was trying to get to 365 movies in 2020.
Yep.
So there's that. And so yeah, it's kind of, it was a movie I was really excited for when the trailer came out in 2009. And then it came out and I was just like, oh, I wasn't, to say I was disappointed would be mean to the movie. It was just like I realized I shouldn't get myself too excited about things. So yeah, I guess I would say I was disappointed.
This was a fun movie back in 2009 when a younger, scantily clad, how old was I? 16-year-old.
Why are you always naked in your stories about?
You gotta enjoy human nature at all of its aspects, Mike. But back in the days of a 16-year-old Glenn, this movie was on, was it on it was like Stars or HBO? It was on one of those premium channels. And the little Warren household would have it on from time to time, almost a lot.
Yeah. How old were you?
16?
Oh, yes.
15, 16 at the time when this came out. And little fun fact, not to make this weird for Miss Emily Stone, This is the one I absolutely crushed on her in. I was like, this is the one that awoken something in me. And it was a Lovecraftian love,
Yes.
without the Cthulhu. Yeah, I completely didn't even know she was in Superbad, even though she was like one of the main characters. But this is the one where I was like, this is Emma Stone, and I have found love at once, finally.
For me, it was Superbad, which makes sense because I'm like 4 years older, or 3.5 years older than you. So when this came out, I was also like, yes, Emma Stone, welcome back. I was a projectionist at the King of Prussia Theater when this came out, and I remember running the film they had a special screening, like, I don't know, they don't think they ever do this at Downingtown, but at King of Prussia every now and then there would be like a reward screening where like it was first come first serve. They would always give out way too many tickets just to make sure it was sold out. So it was never fun for the people working there because they'd have to turn away like 100 people.
Yeah.
And I watched it from the booth because they wanted someone to make sure the film played correctly and that any issues were addressed right away. So my first experience watching this was watching it through a little
Porthole.
A little porthole, yeah. With the mono sound from the sound
from the
system from the projector, yeah. So, but yeah, it's a relatively fun movie. It obviously knows what it is. It doesn't take itself too seriously. Has a lot of fun with it, and that is very apparent with the opening title sequences, where they're just showing a bunch of slow motion zombies.
Which to me, the little title sequences and then the little rule sequences, like the title cards, are like the second best part of this movie, honestly.
Behind Emma Stone?
Well, no.
Okay.
All right, maybe third, behind Emma Stone. One we'll get to in a minute, but it was the first movie that I've ever seen use like kind of dynamic like little title cards, and like they'd be going across the screen tracking something, or it would be on like back of a car or something. This is like the first one that I've ever recognized that ever felt like it did that.
Yeah, and it would like, interact with the environment.
Yeah, and like it would fall off or just anything would happen, like shatter. I don't know, but this is the first movie I've ever seen. It kind of blew my mind with the title cards, and then it's been used obviously way more since. And I have this to thank for that because it was so good at doing that. But to go off of, not to go back on crushing Emma Stone, but to kind of going off to back to 16-year-old me, this movie was fucking grade A selection from movies back at a 16-year-old's point in time.
Yeah.
And it had, I would say it's changed because obviously fart jokes and burps and all that and throwing up is kind of just super gross now, and I don't want to watch that anymore. And it doesn't make me laugh. But for the most part, it still kind of held up. Really, the only thing that it felt like it hasn't held up is that it felt like it was too short, and that the ending was kind of too rushed. Like the third act was kind of too rushed. But then I was reading some of these little trivia facts in here, and I noticed that this was originally a TV show, which made way more sense as far as like how rushed it felt and kind of like the random sequences of things happening, especially the zombie kill of the week and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like that second to third act where Emma Stone kind of and that Abigail Breslin kind of dip off from the other duo. That just felt so rushed, that between mark, and then once they get to that little third part, that's like super short, and then it moves on, and that's kind of it.
Yeah,
that's like the biggest flaw with it now for me. It's just like how quick that little part goes, and then that's really it. You kind of wish there was at least like another 15 minutes of like padding time to like brace yourself for that, I guess. Because it does move quick. Yeah. And it would have benefited from that 10-15 minutes possibly.
Yeah. I remember a lot of the marketing came off of the amusement park aspect.
Yep.
So the biggest consensus that I remember from when it was released in 2009 was that people were disappointed that only like maybe 20 minutes tops takes place in an amusement park.
I'm not even upset about that part for sure.
Yeah, but I'm just going off of what I remember. The film definitely, you're absolutely right. Like when I read that it was going to be a TV show, I'm like, that makes so much more sense. This probably would have been better as a TV show, personally speaking. And that comes from someone who doesn't really care for TV shows. But the zombie kill of the week or the kill of the week or whatever you said, and everything that happens feels like if it were fleshed out more, it could have been that much better. But the going back to the title sequence just a little bit, my favorite part of the title sequence is that there's some situations in it where you're just like, maybe not the first viewing, but second viewing, you're just like, how did they get in that situation? Like there's that one where the father and son are in a 3-legged race with a bunch of other father and sons, but the other father and sons are zombies while they're not. Like how the hell did that even happen?
All of the little girls are zombies, but like the mom isn't and stuff.
Yeah. It's just got a lot of like ridiculous shit like that. And so like this movie definitely has fun with itself. Even in the scenes that are a little more serious, like Bill Murray being shot is probably the funniest thing to happen.
And that's the number one spot that I was talking about.
Yeah, I realized that as soon as you said no, it wasn't Emma Stone. I was like, oh yeah, Bill Murray. But the whole sequence with Bill Murray is just hilarious, and it like if it were real, obviously Bill Murray being killed for doing a goof. Would be one of the saddest things to have ever happened.
And it would be totally in Bill Murray's way to do exactly that.
Yeah, and just not even blame the person who's like, no, I had it coming.
Oh my, his fucking comedic timing. It's like, do you think you're gonna make it? Very slow turns, waits, pauses. No. Just that scene right there alone is so fucking solid.
Yeah.
Bill Murray's part is easily like the top spot for me during the whole movie.
Yeah, I agree.
The rest of it feels like just a bunch of sequences kind of meshed together, and obviously this one is a sequence because he's in it for not even 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's easily the best part of the whole thing, and just how like comedic timing the whole thing was.
Yeah. I remember when I watched this from the porthole when I was in the projection booth, the whole movie had been getting like light chuckles, maybe even some pity chuckles. Were like, "Oh, I see what you're doing."
Yeah.
Because no one big from the movie was there, but there's definitely representatives of the company that were there. So I think a lot of people felt pressure to laugh and whatnot. And so the whole time, people were just going, oh, yeah, reacting the way that they think they were supposed to, but not naturally or whatever. And then when Bill Murray came on the screen, that was like the first time there was like legitimately heavy laughter. Not to say it was the first laugh, because there were other parts that had good laughs, but it was like the first part where it's just like you could tell that this was the first time that it's getting the reaction that they thought it would. And,
a lot of the movie is a lot of light chuckling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's not any part, definitely the part that I actually laughed at, and it was obviously the Bill Murray parts. It's not, I wouldn't say it's terribly hard for me to laugh during movies, but there's definitely parts that I only remember most of the time. Boom, Bill Murray. There's Guardians of the Galaxy 3, laughed the whole fucking time. That movie was hilarious. But this one only had like a good chuckle. And it was just the Bill Murray part for me.
There's two parts in this that aren't Bill Murray related that got me laughing really well. The first one is near the beginning when Jesse Eisenberg runs in a circle to get away from the zombies, drops his keys, and runs in the circle again that you kind of parodied in the beginning of this episode. That got a legitimately like hearty laugh out of me. And then after the first time Emma Stone and Abigail Breslin steal their car and they're walking, and Jesse Eisenberg says, "Hey, look at that minivan." Woody Harrelson goes,
And he
"Oh,
just
you know
starts-
something that is nice."
Yep. And just starts beating the shit out of it
Well,
after
it
too.
wasn't even him beating the shit
Yeah,
out of
it's
it.
just the
That
way
is-
he said it.
Yeah. Oh, you know something that is nice. It
But
sounded
you
like
know what? That is nice.
It sounded
And
like
then-
such a dad thing to say.
Yep.
It got me good with that. But you know, even with it just being mostly light chuckles, it is still like a fine, entertaining movie.
Yeah.
It's definitely not one I would seek the majority of the time. But if it were like, you know, back in the wild days of cable, if it were on TV, I'd probably stick to watching it.
Yeah.
Now, you know, before streaming, when we could just pick pretty much anything we wanted to.
Pretty much.
We're spoiled these days, man.
Oh my god, I'm a little brat. I often wonder how
Why'd
many.
you say that so sexually?
Yep. I often wonder what roles did Michael Cera turn down, and what roles did Jesse Eisenberg turn down? Because they're like almost the same person and play the
yeah.
same characters. I wonder if one of them was approached before the other, and then.
Well, Michael
I-
Cera was definitely famous before Jesse Eisenberg. I would probably say, let me go back. Jesse
Not the-
Eisenberg's sister was famous before he was, and now people don't even know his sister.
Who?
Yeah, his sister. Do you remember the little Pepsi girl with dimples?
No.
She was also in a movie where she has like a bird or something.
Is it Haley Eisenberg?
I believe so. Yeah, Haley Eisenberg. So in the 90s,
Oh, yes, I
this
see.
was before your time. You got to understand this.
Yes, I was 5 years old when this commercial aired.
And there was a Pepsi commercial. I believe it was Pepsi. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, no, the Pepsi girl, yeah. Where, yes, she was in a Pepsi campaigin for a while, and then she was in a movie called Paulie. She was also in Bicentennial Man.
Paulie, yeah.
Yeah, and a few other things. Those were probably her bigger things, is Bicentennial Man, Paulie, and the Pepsi commercials. But then Jesse Eisenberg, when was he getting real famous? Probably... I didn't even realize he was in The Village. Probably The Squid and the Whale was his first like breakout movie, and that's just a small independent movie.
I'm assuming he was one of the. Obviously, he had to be one of the kids in the village.
Yeah.
He was in The Squid and the Whale.
Yeah, he is. So I think 2009 was his breakout year because he had Adventureland with Ryan Reynolds and Kristen Stewart, and then Zombieland. So, you know, up until 2009, he probably just picked up what Michael Cera dropped.
I love that he was in Adventureland and then Zombieland back to back.
Yeah.
And then he talks about Facebook in this, and then he was in The Social Network a year later.
Yeah. I don't even know how we got on that. What are we talking about? Oh, with the Michael Cera. And
Oh, yeah,
all that.
Michael Cera. Not
but
that
yeah,
Michael
they-
Cera was ever approached, but it would.
Yeah.
Those two are just so.
Their
similar,
vibes
it's
are
hilarious.
similar, but Jesse Eisenberg has more of an intensity to him.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you could never see Michael Cera playing Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network,
Yeah.
but Jesse Eisenberg could. But you could also never see Jesse Eisenberg playing Scott Pilgrim.
Yep. That is very true.
So, you know, they are like a Venn diagram of awkwardness, and they meet in the middle a bit, but then they have separate.
Same wavelengths, but a little less spicy or more spicy, depending on how.
I like the way you phrase that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I remember people used to call Jesse Eisenberg the poor man's Michael Cera, like right when he first became famous. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not very nice.
This was made by Robert Fleischer.
Ruben
Ruben
Fleischer.
That's what I said. So much anger in that. I've never been into like almost any of his movies. I mean, obviously, we're talking about Zombieland. The 30 Minutes or Less I never watched. Gangster Squad, from what I remember, wasn't that good. I mean, you know I'm not a big fan of Venom. And Uncharted I did not like. So, are those mostly Sony movies?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe he's a reason why I don't like Sony movies that much. They definitely have like a taste because I feel like his movies are a lot familiar with like other or like similar with other directors that work for Sony.
Yeah.
I just don't like that style specific. Like this movie was good, but it didn't feel like a lot of those other ones. And when it's like specifically for Sony, especially when like it's a Marvel related thing too, it always has like this. It's always black and like a blue tint. I don't know how to explain it other than that. It's every
This doesn't
Sony
have
Marvel.
that.
No. This like I said, this one's fine. But most anything like Sony or just Sony Marvel relation, it's usually like just black, dark, and then blue tint. I don't know how else to describe it.
No, it's the color grading. You don't like the color grading that they do.
Yeah,
Which is
and mostly the writing, but sometimes the color grading.
Yeah, it's he's definitely. I mean, he's done a lot of really good TV shows like Superstore. He's done a few episodes of Between Two Ferns.
He was a producer on Robin Big. That's hilarious. Actually,
Hey, Robin Big is great,
and
I love
Fantasy
Robin Big.
Factory. Yeah, those were great.
Santa Clarita Diet is great as well. So he definitely seems like his style is better suited for TV, perhaps. Granted, when you're a director of a TV show, there's not too much creativity you got with that because you got to go with what the showrunner's going.
Yeah.
But you know, with this feels more like a TV show. I've seen out of his movies 30 minutes or less, which I probably would have enjoyed more if it wasn't making fun of someone's actual murder.
Isn't that also Jesse Eisenberg?
Yeah, that is Jesse Eisenberg. That was his first movie after this. The movie itself is fine. It's just like it's making fun of a real person's murder.
Yeah.
Which is not cool.
Not cool.
And there's actually a great documentary on that murder too. That I forget the name of. Maybe editor Mike will put it in here. It's called Evil Genius, and it's on Netflix.
Oh.
Haven't seen Gangster Squad. I was listening to a podcast with Ruben Fleischer. He was on the Films to be Buried with Brett Goldstein.
Uh-huh.
And he was talking about the Gangster Squad was famously the first trailer had a bunch of mafia mobsters coming into a movie theater with machine guns. But they had to cut that after the shooting at the Aurora Theater.
Oh, yeah.
Aurora, Colorado for The Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight.
And from the way he described it, I haven't seen the movie or that. From how he described it, that was going to change the movie completely. Like it was like a big moment in the movie. It was like the climax of the movie. So to have to change, obviously, it was the right thing to do to change the climax of that movie if that was the climax. But it could have been amazing. And from what I heard, it's just kind of lackluster. I do want to check it out at some point to make my own opinion. And I'm sure you could probably also find that scene somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested in checking that out.
I can't remember if... I feel like I read somewhere that he didn't want Emma Stone in that movie. But because the star power between her and Gosling was so high at the time, that he put her in or something like that. I could be wrong. Completely wrong about that.
But yeah, we kind of went off a major tangent there. Zombieland.
It's all right.
Overall, fun movie. Doesn't really. It's not very memorable. I forgot a lot of this until I was watching it. I was like, oh yeah, but it's not something that comes up.
Well, it's funny. You can forget a lot of it, but still like
Remember
not miss
it in a way.
anything.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
And then Double Tap, in my opinion, the second one is better. It's more fun. I feel like this one was trying to be kind of like cool, and then Double Tap, from my memory, if it serves correctly, is just like it leans into the stupidity of everything, which I think really worked for it. But yeah, that's really all I got to say.
Yeah, it was a good movie, good to rewatch. You know, I probably never watch it again unless we have to do another assignment on it for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a genuine time.
Yes. So that does it for our review for Zombieland. That brings us to the judgment. As always, it needs to be a unanimous decision whether or not it goes to KFR shelf with the likes of Apostle or Handmaiden. Glenn, heads or tails?
Tails.
Tails. Tails, you go. All right. So, Glenn, does Zombieland make it on the KFR shelf with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden?
I like the movie. I don't really have that many things to downgrade it in the slightest. I think a lot of people would have fun with this movie, and I wouldn't necessarily put it on the shelf for anything extraordinary, but I have nothing really extraordinarily bad to say about it. So sorry if that does not help you.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's a fine movie. You and I both. I fell more in love with Emma Stone. You fell in love with Emma Stone for the first time while watching it. Not that it has anything to do with the movie. That's just two lonely boys,
Lonely fellas,
making fantasies in their head about a woman they'll never meet.
You hold your tongue now. Sure,
my
she's
Emma
married.
But yeah, it's a fun movie. I have no qualms about it. I have no negative things to say, really. It's fun. It knows what it is. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just not something that is like amazing that I'm going to recommend to a lot of people.
In another universe, we would have had the Zombieland TV show, and it probably would have been fucking amazing.
Yeah, probably would have ran for 20 years like Walking Dead did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will also say it does not go onto the shelf. But again, fine movie. Enjoyed watching it. There's that. So, Zombieland does not make it on the KFR shelf with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden, and that brings us to our assignment for this week. It is my turn to pick. And as everyone knows, this year I've been having Glenn pick by picking a number. This week, it's going to be a number between 1 and 37. Glenn, what do you pick?
36.
Oh, my God. Okay.
I forgot you have to...
2 hours later.
Okay. So, we got a little movie.
You couldn't just, like, count backwards from the last two?
I'm dumb. You know this. I'm dumb.
That's amazing.
So, yeah. I'll figure out that math for next time. But anyway... for those of you who are wondering, I have, just so I don't have to reorganize them every single week, I have a random number generator, and that's where I start counting from. So that's on me. I got to figure out a better system. But anyway, this week, Glenn picked 36, which ended up being number 28, which is Walk the Line.
Oh, hell yeah.
He was hit by a truck. And you were lying out in that gutter dying, and you had time to sing one song. One song that would let God know what you felt about your time here on earth. One song that would sum you up. That's the kind of song that truly saves people.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
I got to ask you how you came up with that sound. Steady like a train, sharp like a razor.
We'd play faster if we could.
The taste of love is sweet.
We're all going to hell for the songs we sang.
And what about me, Charlie? Am I going to hell?
No, June, you're beautiful.
Bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire.
Sorry, it just happened.
You should try taking credit for something every once in a while.
Come on, baby.
Baby, 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 baby.
I fell into a burning ring of fire.
Tell me you don't love me.
I don't love you.
Liar.
And the flames went higher.
Mr. Cash, why don't you refrain from performing any tunes that remind the inmates that they're in prison? You think they forgot?
The ring of fire.
Joaquin Phoenix, Reese Witherspoon.
And what's with the black?
Looks like you're going to a funeral.
Maybe I am.
Walk the Line.
Have you seen this?
I have.
You have. I have not seen it. I remember it came out when I first started working at the movie theater back in 2005, and Great Balls of Fire was stuck in everyone's head. So anyway,
I have not seen this in a long time, and I don't remember fuck about it, besides it being about Johnny Cash.
Yeah. So it's going to be on HBO Max, of course. Apparently, let's see what other options there are. Just HBO Max. You can also rent it, of course, from any rental place for a few bucks. A chronicle of country music legend Johnny Cash's life from his early days on an Arkansas cotton farm to his rise to fame with Sun Records in Memphis, where he recorded alongside Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Carl Perkins. Didn't stutter! Yes, I'm still here.
I've never been more proud.
It is directed by James Mangold, written by Johnny Cash, probably based on memoirs or something. Let me open this up and see. Yeah, based on the book by Johnny Cash and Patrick Carr. Written by Gil or Jill. I'm going to go with Gil Dennis and James Mangold. Starring Joaquin Phoenix, Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Goodwin, Robert Patrick, Dallas Roberts, Dan John Miller, Larry Bagby. Let's see who else, if anyone. I feel like there's got to be at least someone else. Maybe not. I don't recognize anyone else.
Austin Butler's in there, I think.
Is he?
Can you fucking imagine that he played Elvis 20 years before?
What do you have him say anytime he's in Dune? What's that meme?
Hey, mama, all these chuckleheads trying to get the spots.
Chuckleheads. So yes, it's going to be Walk the Line. I'm actually really excited. I wanted to see this when it was in theaters, but like this, for those of you kids out there, this was before they had the Affordable Care Act, which limited how much people can have you work without giving you health insurance. So I worked 40 hours pretty much every week from the time I was 16 until that was passed.
You're a working boy.
Yeah, I liked working at the movie theater back when it was fun. So yeah, I just never got a chance to go see this. So I'm excited to see it. I've seen the Dewey Cox story, though.
Oh my God, I love that.
That's also on the list. That
Oh, we should have just did like a little duo pack.
Well, it's Dewey Cox isn't Walk Hard. That one is not streaming currently, so it's temporarily off the list.
I have it somewhere, or my mom does. I can't remember who.
I mean, I have it on DVD, but I'm talking about for our listeners out there. But if you want to know, if you want to know, this list is actually like 60 movies long. But I have to remove any time a movie's not streaming. So this week was only 37. So yeah, Walk the Line is our assignment for next week. Thank you everyone for listening. You can check that movie out on HBO Max. As always, you can check out our website at www.keystonefilmreview.com, on Instagram where you're Keystone_film_review, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook, Keystone Film Review, and on Letterboxd, I'm Mike KFR.
And I'm Glenn KFR.
And that will do it until next week when we have our balls of fire that are on fire, that are our balls, great balls of fire.
Freaking nuts, man.
You know, Johnny Cash accidentally made a bird go extinct, or almost did. One of those. Yeah, he started a forest fire in California that either made a bird go extinct or almost made a bird go extinct. I'll have to look that up before next week's episode.
What a goofball.
What a goofball.
Almost illegally doing things.
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.